Hey guys and gals, this is your 5 minute leader check-in. We've talked about the last week about creating a relational environment that produces authenticity, mutual accountability, and just a safe environment to share. In talking about that, I want to talk about how today and how when you create that safe place to share, students may share shocking things. They may share disagreement. They may ask really tough and really honest, good questions, or they could say things that are just for the shock factor, or maybe just catch you off guard and are sad. So, for example, recently I had a student tell me that they no longer believe in God, and those are words none of us want to hear, and that was very, very tough to hear. I bring that up because when we create those safe environments and these kinds of statements come out, these kind of authentic, transparent, this is where I'm at. First and foremost, let me say this. Kudos to you for creating that kind of safe place and rapport for someone to share with you what probably is a very deep struggle. Don't think of that as a bad thing. Don't think of that as a negative. I equate it to two patients, both have broken limbs. One goes into the hospital because they know maybe it's not a serious fracture or a compound fracture, but it's a hairline fracture, but they know something's wrong. And so they go in and they need the doctors to check them out and get the medical attention they need. The other one stays home and it makes it worse. And in fact, it doesn't heal correctly and the bone's set incorrectly and actually has further complications down the road. We want students to tell us where they honestly are in their spiritual journey. I'd much rather have them struggle during the time when they're still at Calvary than when they go to college or in the workforce and they don't have that kind of structure and support. And so first and foremost, that's a good thing when students share. Not that's good that they may share, like in the case of this student, that they are struggling in their faith or they have no faith, but good in the sense that we can help them more precisely. The thing I want to focus on today, because I only have 5 minutes, is, and we could talk about this probably in the next coming leader check-ins, is what's your initial reaction? What are you communicating to them when they tell you? If your first response is to argue with them, dismiss them, show them where they're wrong, that's probably not going to be the most helpful thing to do. A dismissive eye roll, a talking over, a quick response, all communicate that we know better, we have the right answers, and I think what it strongly communicates is that we probably don't have a understanding or at least a sympathy of where they're at. I think it's good for us to learn the difference between acceptance and approval. When a student shares, in my example, that they don't believe any longer in God, it's not that I'm accepting that answer. I'm accepting that's where they're at. That I can listen in and understand how they got there. In this case, there were some pretty traumatic things that happened recently. And I got the why behind the statement. And I wanted to show that I cared for and would be willing to support and care for the student. In fact, I'm going to meet with this student semi-regularly now. And that's a good thing that they're even willing to meet and talk about faith in God, even though they say they no longer believe, because there's probably more to that than just that statement. And so that's acceptance, accepting where they're at. Now, approval is condoning, encouraging that kind of behavior and thought. And I no way do I approve that they don't believe in God. In fact, I think that would be not helpful for their situation. If they're really going through some hard things in life, I think God is probably the thing they need the most. And I'm not going to shy away from saying that. I'm going to be gracious and winsome and very strategic in how and what I share, but also very truthful and honest. That tension of being both grace-filled and truth-filled, and that's what Jesus came for in both. You find him meeting with and even being labeled a friend of sinners, and yet sharing the straight truth with them unabashedly. And so when a student shares they're struggling, great job that you created that kind of rapport and environment they felt safe enough to share. Be mindful of your initial response. nonverbal response as well, to make sure it's communicating to them that you love and care for them, and find ways to ask questions to get when someone brings up a question, there's always a questioner behind the question. Find out the heart behind it. Find out why they came to those conclusions, and then meet them there. Accept where they're at, and then maybe don't approve of their lifestyle choices or their the fallout that comes, the poor decisions they'll make from this, but walk alongside them, encourage them, and give them God's truth and His grace. We'll talk about that more in the coming weeks, about when students share things that are shocking or just they disagree with us, and how to handle that in a way that we can continue to support and encourage them. I'll see you guys later tonight. We're about 10 weeks until May, so it's getting close to the end of the year. So I appreciate all that you guys do so much. See you guys later.